What is up, Steeler Nation? Welcome back to another episode of State of the Steelers. And today we're talking about the Steelers versus Bengals preview. This is a game that'll be coming up tomorrow. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern in Cincinnati at Paycor Stadium. The Pittsburgh Steelers will be traveling to take on the Cincinnati Bengals. And this is a game that I think is pretty important. There's been a lot of question marks with this team throughout this year. There was a lot of doubt in the beginning, and then a lot of folks started to buy into the Pittsburgh Steelers. And in one loss to a team that was playing their Super Bowl, which there's no excuse. The Steelers should have won that game. They lost. They were the less physical team that day. They'll get their opportunity to play them again one more time and deliver some payback here pretty soon. But they had an embarrassing loss to a team that was 2-8 at the time, now 3-8 in the Cleveland Browns. I get it. I was very disappointed in the loss. The offense didn't look so great. The offense seems to have been struggling as of the last few games, which is, I think, why a lot of people were so easily to fall off the bandwagon. You had this offense that was scoring, pretty good. I think they were averaging at one point with Russ out there 31 points or 28 points per game. And then all of a sudden it just kind of dropped off. And I think that there's a couple of things that are going on with that. And I think those are the things that we've been talking about on this long week here. And that is Arthur Smith's play calling and the use of personnel that is out there. It hasn't been the best. And, the Steelers have been running the ball, I think, at a higher rate than they've been passing, which, sounds like old school Steelers football. However, it's not producing the points that are needed for the game. And when you let teams hang around, sometimes you end up losing some of those games you should have won. And the Steelers losing to the Cleveland Browns, that's a divisional conference opponent. It hurts a little bit more, especially when it comes to tiebreakers and things of that nature. I just think that because they lost, it doesn't make this game a must win, but for everybody, including maybe even the confidence of the players, I feel like if they lose this game again or lose their second week in a row to divisional teams, to teams that have lower than a winning record, sub 500 teams, that's going to be it's a huge blow to this confidence, the confidence in the team. I think that at the end of this game, regardless of what happens, I think the fans are going to be, and maybe even the team are going to be, they're going to be one or two things: very relieved and confident and think that last week was just a fluke, or they're going to be very, very concerned, given this would, like I mentioned before, the second divisional game lost, and to the two teams that are probably the lower tier teams, so to speak, when it comes to the division. So it's been a long week. The Steelers have had a long time to sit and think about what happened last week against the Cleveland Browns, which I also think, just to touch a little bit there, outside of the play calls and the personnel, which what I was talking about earlier, I just felt like the effort there was also maybe not there to a full extent. One thing that they brought up a lot during the broadcast, and I think I've heard this in other broadcasts as well, and if you look at the all 22, you'll see that when Russ starts to move around, the receivers don't. They don't come back to him. They don't move with a purpose to the direction that he's running. And I think that needs to be changed. Obviously, it needs to be changed. Is that a coaching thing? Is that, what has to happen there for it to be changed? Because we're leaving a lot of points and a lot of plays out on the field just by, maybe if it's inexperience or unknowing or just lack of effort. And like I said, those things need to change, but I'm hoping that that's what they've seen in this long mini bye week. And that is at least one of the things that they can fix, because I think if they can fix that one thing, this offense will be all right. And George Pickens, he had a statement here not too long ago, when asked to talk in the media, he pulled the Marshawn Lynch, I'm just here so I don't get fined, which is honestly probably the best thing for him to answer. I mean, he's gotten himself into a lot of heat and a lot of trouble by saying things that and doing things on the field that he shouldn't be doing. Not necessarily saying things. Let me rephrase that. I mean, he's actually been pretty good when it comes to reporters, as far as not saying anything that he's not supposed to. Now, I do think that sometimes maybe words and answers can be taken out of context, or the perception of the reporter who then documents it in his perspective or her perspective as a negative statement may not have been a negative statement. And so just to avoid any controversy or any of the problems, just saying, hey, I'm not going to answer any of these controversial questions that you have for me. Or, and I think in the clip that I saw was referencing any fines or things of that nature. That's his personal business. You know, I get it. It's his paycheck. You know, I get it, but it is his paycheck. It's his money. I think a lot of the times as fans, we get a little bit too involved in the players' money. You know, nobody wants us to take a pay cut, but we want our players to. Just a food for thought there. But overall, that statement, I thought I thought he handled that better. I didn't think he handled that bad. And so now we're ready for Cincinnati. You know, and first we're going to talk about is going to be the injury report. You know, if the Pittsburgh Steelers out in this game are going to be Montravius Adams and Corey Trice, I was really hoping that Corey Trice would, start making his return to the field. What this tells me is that the Pittsburgh Steelers are comfortable with what they have as far as depth goes. I know that James Pierre, or is it Justin Pierre? One of the number 42, I apologize. He's done some good things in special teams. He's been a little bit of a liability in coverage in the past. When the Pittsburgh Steelers picked him up, he was out on the street. He wasn't on a team or anything like that. And so that tells me that not many other teams saw value in him. And I think that he's brought in a huge value to to the special teams as a gunner. He's going to be a guy that gets targeted if he gets out there on the field. You know, Dante Jackson has had a few games where he didn't finish the entire game. And so having somebody like Corey Trice available in that instance, I think is valuable. I know that Cam Sutton is out there. It seems to me that they're running Cam Sutton a little bit more in the nickel and the dime as that slot corner, not necessarily replacing Beanie Bishop completely, but limiting his role in what he does. And I think that that's done for a reason. And that reason being is just experience and knowledge and how the defense is going to be able to call their game plan. You know, if they have somebody that's out there that you need to simplify the game plan for, that also simplifies the looks for the opposing quarterback. And so he can then at that point start to pick things apart. And those are things that we just don't want. But let's go to the back to the injury report. Corey Trice is out. Alex Highsmith is doubtful, which I think that tells me that he's not going to play in this game. I don't see it. I think it's probably in his best interest if he is still, not 100% that, he should probably stay out at least another week. And I think that will be, the Pittsburgh Steelers will be eyeing the next Cleveland Browns game as maybe perhaps his return. Montravius Adams is also out with his knee still. He's been a participant limited. Both him and Corey Trice and Alex Highsmith have been participants in practice this week. I think that they're all going to be training up in the right direction. It's just, I think with Montravius Adams, he's going to really be able to plug up a hole up in the middle, and he also applies quite a bit of pressure through the center of the line on the quarterback. I mean, he's probably the most underrated, defensive player when he's healthy out there for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He does quite a bit. And for the Cincinnati Bengals, their injury report, it's interesting as well. Let me pull that up real quick. But they have a few players that are out. I think Wilson is one of them. Their middle linebacker, which he's out. He's questionable, Logan Wilson, with a knee, and him being questionable This is going to put maybe not some pressure, but we're going to need to see some more things, especially out of the middle of the field and from the running backs running up through the middle of the field. Najee Harris didn't have himself the greatest of games last week. Jaylen Warren, I think, had himself a little bit of a better game. He seems to be improving. He seems to have gotten more yards and yards per carry in this last game against the Cleveland Browns. And so I would like to see that matchup there, even if Logan Wilson is in the game. With knee injury, I would assume that he's probably going to be dealing, or that his speed and his cutting and his change of direction are going to be affected by that. Orlando Brown, their outside tackle, he's questionable. That's going to build, hopefully, build a good situation for the Pittsburgh Steelers and their outside linebackers. Like I said, I think Alex Highsmith's going to be out, so we're going to see a lot of Nick Herbig and Preston Smith. And Charlie Jones growing, he's doubtful. He's probably not going to play. So they're not coming in too injured as far as the Bengals go. I mean, they got some people that are questionable in key positions, but overall, everybody seems to be healthy. And they've done all right, when it comes to the Bengals offensively. I wouldn't say that, well, there's obviously a reason why they've lost more games than they've won, but offensively, they're doing what they're supposed to do. And we'll get into that more here after the break. Don't go anywhere. Be right back after a couple seconds. Hey, welcome back to the show. Thank you for staying with us. Before we get back into the conversation, I want to remind you guys of our website, stillcurrentnetwork.com, your one-stop shop for Pittsburgh Steelers news and coverage. You can also check out our YouTube page, where I'll be back on Monday after, doing the post-game show on the network, Still Current Network YouTube channel on a show called The Hangover. It's myself and Shannon White. We talk about the game before. Hopefully it's a good one. Hopefully it'll be a good hangover and not one of those bad, horrible hangovers after a loss. But back into the conversation. So, some storylines here. Let's get into storylines when it comes to this game. And the first one, in my opinion, are going to be, as I mentioned before, the middle of the field is going to be the place that the Pittsburgh Steelers need to target. Last year, when Mason Rudolph took over, he hit Pat Freiermuth actually it was Kenny Pickett. Actually, he was still there. He hit Pat Freiermuth 13 times. And, this was the game. I think this was the first game after the Matt Canada firing. And we just saw the offense blow up. And that's the kind of performance I think we're going to need to see. We're going to need to see the middle of the field open up for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think it's going to be open there. The style of defense that the Bengals have been playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers has been very aggressive. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers, in the last few years, their inability to throw it over the top. Now, I'm not sure they're going to come into this game with the same approach, but if they do, I like the Pittsburgh Steelers receivers in this game against one of the league's worst defenses, and the Steelers went up against one of the league's worst passing defenses and the Baltimore Ravens a couple of weeks ago, and it just didn't work out for them there as well. But as far as the middle of the field here now, I think this needs to be a targeted area, especially with the knee that Logan Wilson is dealing with. And this is going to be the key for success here in this game. I think that the running game, the Steelers are going to do what they're going to do in the running game. They're going to run the ball quite a bit. But they're going to put themselves, if regardless if it's working or not, I think the Steelers are going to run the ball quite a bit. And if it's not working, then, it's going to be some third and longs again. And the Steelers are going to need to have these wide receivers and this tight end, all the tight ends, get up for this game. The next one storyline that I have here is it's going to be Jalen Warren versus Najee Harris. Here in recent weeks, Jalen Warren has seemed to be trending in an upward trajectory. Najee Harris seems to have, he's kind of up and down still. He had 3 games where he had 100 yards rushing in a row, and then it's just been kind of falling off ever since. Now, I think that the Steelers have become a little bit more predictable, and that's kind of been a reason why I think in those games his rushing yards have gone down. And I think if the Steelers start throwing the ball more often on first and second down, maybe perhaps he's going to get some more space to run. But without that space and his ability to perhaps maybe his vision not as good as Jalen Warren's, Jalen has been more successful even when in a predictable down and distance where we know that Jalen Warren's going to end up getting the ball. Now, I do think that Jalen brings an added aspect to his game as far as catching the ball out of the backfield that Najee Harris hasn't been able to do this year. I know that some of the times, early on when Justin Fields was out there, maybe perhaps the passes that he was thrown weren't the greatest, but even when they were and they've hit him in the hands, he's dropped more than you would like him to. And so I think that, and plus what each running back does after they catch the ball, I think Jalen Warren is just a little bit more explosive in that realm, and I think that defenses have to keep honest or a little bit more honest because they know that if Jalen Warren can beat a defense if they allow it to happen, he'll take over a game. And so, to me, I think that I might want to lean a little bit more to seeing a little bit more Jalen Warren here. I just feel that he just brings another dynamic to the game where defenses have to prepare for that. Another storyline that I have on here is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers' usage of the quarterback position. Russell Wilson, he's been doing great. Last week against the Browns, we saw Justin Fields come in quite a bit, and it worked sometimes, but for the most time, it really didn't. And I think that there needs to be a better use. There needs to be more of the package, the Justin Fields package. I think it wasn't used properly. I mean, there was a lot of confusion going in and out. Stick to the game plan when it comes to that package, when you want to utilize it, how you want to utilize it, with what you practice in. I know trying to adjust to something on the fly it could be something that's useful for this team. If they're seeing that maybe Justin Fields and his running ability like last week could have been more useful, given the fact that the Browns had struggled with Taysom Hill the week before. But in last week's game, there was a lot of confusion. There was a point when Zach Frazier and another offensive lineman ran off the field after the Steelers decided they were going to go for it. And then they had to run back on the field, and they ended up getting the ball snapped with like half a second to go on the play clock. And boom, right there you have the play wasn't ran right. And it ended up being, I think, a loss for Justin Fields. So, to me, yeah, it's going to be. I want to see the Justin Fields package, but it's got to be in the right time, in the right place, down and distance. And I think that when you throw the ball, maybe not throw it 40 yards down the field when it's like, what was it, like 3rd and 4 or something like that. I don't know. There's just been a lot of questions with the offensive play calls, time management, and player usage, in my opinion. All right. And the last storyline that I'm going to discuss with you guys today is it's going to be Jamar Chase. The Steelers need to stop him. And last year, we'll look at what Joey Porter was able to do when he played the Cincinnati Bengals. I think this was the game in Cincinnati, week 12, and Joey Porter was shadowing Jamar Chase 85.7% of the time, 24 out of 28 snaps. He had a press coverage rate of 41.7, so nearly half the time he was in press coverage with with Jamar Chase. Jamar had 2 receptions on 2 targets for 36 yards. And that the average target separation between Joey Porter and Jamar Chase was 0.9 yards. So he stuck with him. I know there's been a lot of concern and conversation about Joey Porter in this game, because of the speed of Jamar Chase and what Jamar Chase has done up to this point. I mean, he's in Cincinnati. They're calling this the 5K watch for Jamar Chase. Basically, what they're saying, or what they mean by that, is Jamar Chase has had a career of 4,773 yards. So he needs a 227-yard day to reach 5,000 yards. And, he's done quite a bit this year. Against the Baltimore Ravens, he had a 264-yard game. Right now, he's the NFL leader in receiving yards and in touchdowns. He's got 1,056 yards already and 12 touchdowns on the year. It's impressive what he's been able to do this year. And it is kind of nerve-wracking what the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to do, because the Bengals also have Higgins on the other side. The running game is with Chase Brown. It's okay. It's not Joe Mixon. You don't have to worry about him as much as that. But a lot of people are saying that maybe perhaps have Joey Porter on Higgins because it's a better matchup, and Dante Jackson on Jamar Chase because he's more speed. I'm not sure, man. It worked out pretty well for Joey Porter to follow him last year. Now, I know Joey Porter's not really having the same type of season as he did last year. But I think he's still doing pretty well. A lot of the penalties have been what has affected his game this year. And both of these guys are physical. So when I think, when you that Chase is going to be physical, Joey's going to be physical, that might lead to the refs, allowing some things to be out. And this is going to be one to watch. I don't think that Jamar Chase gets anywhere close to that 227 yards that he needs for the 5,000. But that needs to be on the bulletin board and in Joey Porter's locker, that the Bengals, they're on 5K watch. But yeah, Joey Porter, I think he was able to handle himself not too bad last time. So let's see what he has. But Jamar Chase had a comment about Minkah Fitzpatrick as well ahead of this game. When asked if Minkah Fitzpatrick was on Chase's most hated list, Jamar Chase said no, that was wrong. That Minkah is not even ranked on his most hated list. He said, I don't have a problem with Minkah. He just caught me in the heat of the moment that 1 year. So 1 year, and this is the year where Minkah was just creating havoc all over the place. And there was a famous picture taken where Jamar Chase is giving the double bird to Minkah Fitzpatrick. We're going to need one of those games from Minkah. We're going to need a game where he gets in the head of Jamar Chase and the rest of the Cincinnati Bengals offense. We haven't seen that in a while. And, Minkah should be on that hate list. If you don't got a problem with the guys, because you don't see him as a problem. You don't see him as a headache. You don't see him as a contender to what you're doing. It's just a speed bump. This needs to be also on that bulletin board, in my opinion. The defense needs to get out for this game. They definitely do. So now let's just go into some topics as far as what has to happen to win. Offensively, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, is going to be scoring points. The Cincinnati Bengals, in my opinion, are going to get some points on the board. And the Steelers are going to have to stay out in front of them. Obviously, But in order to do so, I think that the limit of points that they're going to need to score is about 30 points. I think that if they hit 30, I think they have a really good opportunity to win this game. Because I do think that in the end of the day, that the defense is going to be able to do more. They're going to be able to stop and contain the Cincinnati Bengals on a few drives there. I don't think it's going to be a situation where the Bengals are going to go out there and just kind of score on every single possession and that the Steelers aren't going to do anything. But I do think that the Bengals are going to get their points in. They are a prolific offense. Joe Burrow is on I mean, if their team was winning, their defense was better. And I mean, if he had the same stats as of right now and his defense was better, I think he'd be, top 3 in, when it comes to the MVP of the year based on what he's doing. He's having a really good year. And so the Steelers are going to have to score points. In order to do so, they're going to have to pass at least 60% of the time. In recent weeks, it's been passing was like 40-45%. So it's been the exact opposite as far as what the offense has been able to do. And I think like I said, they've become quite a bit predictable, and it's resulted in no points and a bunch of field goals. And defense is going to have to make splash. The Bengals going to put the ball up in the air. They're going to target who they're going to target. They don't care how you try to stop Jamar Chase. They're going to give him that opportunity. They're going to give him the ball. And so you're going to have some splash. Minka's going to have to come up with an interception or something, or Deshaun Elliott. It really doesn't matter. Herbig coming around the back and forcing a strip sack or something of that nature. I think those are going to, something's going to have to happen. Obviously the Steelers are going to have to win the turnover battle. I mean, that's always in your list of things you have to do. But a must-have is that Pittsburgh Steelers defense are going to have to get some splash on this. As far as predictions and scores, the betting line is at the Cincinnati Bengals are a 3-point favorite. They are at home. So basically what this means is Las Vegas thinks that on an even field that they would be pretty comparable to each other. There wouldn't be an advantage to either. And I think the over and under is like 47 points or 47.5 points. I think there's going to be a lot of points put up. I would definitely go the over on the points. To me, I think that, and this is where I hope I don't lose much of you guys, but I think that when it comes to my prediction in this game, I don't see the Pittsburgh Steelers getting up to 30. That was one of the things that I said that must have happen is the Steelers need to score 30 points. And, the way this offense has been ran, the way Arthur Smith has been, utilizing the players, being so predictable, not being able to get into the end zone and the red zone. Those things have haunted the Pittsburgh Steelers. And until you see them, change, it's going to be a problem until it changes, until it's not. And so for me, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers end up actually losing this game to the Cincinnati Bengals. And my score prediction is 27-28. I think that had they got to 30, they would win. I just think they dropped just a little bit short. And when you look at, or 31, I'm sorry, 27-31 was the score that I'm going to come up with. I don't think they hold them under 30 either. The defense is, when you look at what TJ Watt isn't having the greatest year either. You think he has like 7.5 sacks. He's done a lot of splash and had some forced fumbles and things of that nature. But we're what kind of Steelers fan am I? I'm a realist at the end of the day, and and the other thing too is when I have said that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to lose, they've won. So hopefully that's what ends up happening in this situation. But if I had to take, like, if somebody was forcing me to make a bet and there was money on the line and I had to take my heart out of it, I am worried about this game. I am worried about this game. And I just I think the Steelers can win it. I think the Steelers can go in there and take care of business. I just don't know if they are going to be able to do it this game. But we'll see. I hope there's a sense of urgency on this team that, they lost on Thursday night against the Cleveland Browns. But we'll see. I don't think it's a year like it's going to break the year or anything like that. The Steelers getting up some points and being competitive in this game is going to show that they are a competitive team. I'm just worried about how the Steelers are going to be able to, without Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig, he applies pressure and splash, and Preston Smith is doing his job. It's not the same though, without Alex Highsmith. We saw him return after his last injury, and a huge difference, especially in the running game. And like I said, I'm not saying that the Steelers can't win. I think they very much well can. They're just gonna have to put the ball in the end zone. If they're scoring like 27 points, that's about 8 points that they could have had in field goals at least, right? And so that would put you at like 34 or something like that. And I think that that's quite possible. But in order to get there, 35, in order to get there, you kind of need to put the ball in the end zone on almost all those drives. And that's the other thing that's concerning, Can the Steelers put the ball in the end zone? I'm not sure. But that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you're listening to this on Apple or wherever, please hit that 5-star review. Please hit the like and subscribe if you're on anything else. Again, I'll be back on Monday on the YouTube channel, Steel Curtain Network, at 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll be talking about the game and hopefully the Pittsburgh Steelers victory. That being said, guys, I'm out of here. Peace.